ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. Stay tuned for another original Studio B production right here on the Voice17104.com.
Welcome, my brothers and sisters, to the Richard James Show on 17104, The Voice.
We're back again. A new day, a new hour, and a new show. And we're blessed to have Dr. Eliseo Rosario, who is a broadcaster himself and who's many things, to come back on our show. We did a show, I guess, a few weeks ago, in which he lifted up his photography, and we're going to do that again today. Welcome, my brother. Can I call you Gus, or what should I call?
Yeah. Actually, your radio handle, because we have our call station. We also use The Voice, so it's called The Voice of Dickinson College. So I almost blurted it out by reflex when I heard The Voice of Dickinson College, which is our call. So yes, Gus would be appropriate.
Well, thank you so much, Gus. I'm glad to have you again. Just to repeat for some of our listeners and viewers that haven't seen you before, just a little history and background. I think Gus originated in New York, if I'm correct, where he grew up and received his education. He's a man of many talents and many interests. He lives a full life. Now, that's my interpretation of Gus. Gus is a pediatrician, which he's not only a medical doctor. Medical doctor is one thing, but he's a specialist and pediatrician. And now he's retired and moving on in his life, and now he's doing some things that seem to be utterly enjoyable. Gus, welcome aboard, man. Welcome aboard. I understand we just talked a minute ago, and you've already been out shooting pictures. How's it going?
Very well. Thank you very much for having me back. I guess we got good reviews, and the truth hasn't come out, so that's good to know. I've always held the philosophy that you got to maintain balance, and if you're working hard, you got to be playing hard. Now that I'm not working anymore, I'm closing that gap from all those years I put into work.
How many years did you perform your medical?
I see, 35. I was 32 years in Carlisle. 35, wow. About 37, 38 years.
37, 38 years. That's wonderful.
Yeah, you know what? When you say it, all of a sudden that number seems a whole lot bigger when you hear it out loud. You're like, wow.
Yeah, so Carlisle. I used to live in Carlisle.
Wow.
Lived in Carlisle for 6.5 years, and actually, well, I won't get into Carlisle. I won't talk about Carlisle. We had some issues in Carlisle, problematic, but we love the area. I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful area, and we had some friends there called the Clemens. But Carlisle is interesting. But anywho, let's talk about this journey, this photography. The pictures.
Yeah.
I have a beautiful picture here that you gave us at Christmas. We love it. What sparked? Were you still practicing medicine when your interest in photography was sparked, or was that?
And I've always had a casual interest in photography from way back. You know, all of us snap. And you always get that good picture and you wonder, you don't know how that happened. So I started getting more seriously into photography probably a last 6-7 years that I was working. Once I retired, then it became a passion, because now I wanted to know, every time I got a good picture, I wanted to know how that happened and can I do it again? Can I repeat that process? So I started approaching it like I approached my school, taking classes, going to seminars, and becoming skilled. So not only in the art of photography, but in the science of photography. It's all about light. It's all about that. So that appealed to me immensely because it was not just. I've always been kind of, and people, people refer to photographers as artists, and some of them most definitely are. That's always a moniker that I don't wear very well because I don't feel like an artist. But I get that, that response is elicited from some of the people that look at my work, and I keep trending in the right direction. And in fact, my objective is to shoot a nature picture in an artistic fashion so that they're not just documenting, but they're also artistic. So that is my eventual goal.
I'm listening to you, um, and my own perception of photography and what I've seen you done. I could not call it anything else but art. I mean, it just
Well,
it's, and it seems to me not only is my perception,
right.
does it seem like art to me, and art is communication, and it's telling a story.
Yeah.
That's my concept. Am I off base?
That I plead guilty to. Yes, I mean the picture should definitely convey a story. Otherwise, why are you doing it? Why are you taking this? So yes. And I get that. It's always like I've always said. It doesn't matter what you said; it's what they heard. So
Oh, beautiful.
it's what they heard, because what they heard is what generates the consequences that you used to deal with. And when you say, "Well, I didn't mean that," it doesn't matter. They heard something else. And now you got to contend with that. So photo visual, the same thing. You wind up, and the story may be different for different people. The same picture has
Yes,
one
yes,
story for this
yes,
guy, one different story for this woman, and the third person a different story altogether, and none of them have to do with your story, which is perfectly okay. And I guess you're right. I think that's the power of the art, that it could generate those thought processes in different people. So I see. I certainly am more comfortable with your definition in terms of storytelling, because that is what I feel like I'm doing.
and the other thing in terms of your artistry, uh, sometimes you see things in nature and in life uh, that other people may look at the same object and not see the same thing,
Yes,
uh,
I think you're right.
and not even appreciate it.
I think you're
Uh,
right. I think you're right, because people who are photographers will comment on, or people who are in the arts, not just
yes,
photographers, but particularly photographers. They claim that they see some of my photos and they tell me I have a good eye, which is
yes,
ironic because I'm legally blind out of one eye. But I understand what they're saying. So you're right. I think you wind up looking at things. It's like the musician who listens to music differently than a non-musician.
yes, yes,
They hear with a different ear. So I see with a different eye when I've got my camera in my hand, and I often have my camera in my hand. So yes, I think you're looking in from a different angle, and some people come up to you and say, what are you shooting? What are you looking at?" And then I'm showing what they're saying. I say, "Oh, wow, I didn't notice that." So yes, I think you're right that the eye, the so-called eye,
yes, yes.
is got to be there. And I don't know if that's acquirable, or you got it or you don't have it, but there are some folks who have that knack for seeing things, and my suspicion is that I was fortunate enough to have that knack.
And that's wonderful. Some things are genetic, they inherit. Some things are developed over a course of time. We may start out at one level, and then we'll move to another level.
Mhm.
But when you begin to start appreciating your own work, then you know you're getting there. Uh,
Well, and sometimes you're so close to it,
Yes.
and you don't see the transition. You're always, because you're always looking at it critically. So you're always finding what you didn't want get done. And you
Yeah.
then realize that, you got a couple of things you got right this time that you didn't get right the last time. So
Right.
it's the objective observer who tells you, dude, my son, for instance, he says, you come a long way from the days when, you were shooting. So he's seen me from the beginning. And when he starts telling me I've come a ways, then I know, I must be moving in the right direction if he's noticing it.
Well, fantastic. That's wonderful that you have that kind of relationship where you can communicate with each other and able
Oh,
to
yeah.
share.
Yeah,
That's a wonderful thing.
yeah,
Well, I'm anxious to see something. I'm
yeah.
anxious.
All
I
right, all right.
want to see what you got.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
let's
What do we
bring it.
have here?
So we went on a cruise recently, and so many of the pictures here are going to be from that. We went
Okay.
to Mexico, two different places in Mexico, and in Honduras. We went to Roatan, which is an island off of Honduras. So, and so these are fresh because these we just came back probably a couple of weeks ago. And one of the first stops was in Cozumel, which is an island off Mexico. And on Cozumel, they have this excursion which takes you to Xcaret. And Xcaret is kind of like a glorified amusement park. I mean, I think the only thing that would come comparable would be Disney World, because they got water activities, they got scuba diving, they got dolphin petting, they got a lazy river that takes you all around the whole complex. And
Wow.
they have several locations where they have an aviary, which is birds that are enclosed, and a butterfly house, and they have animals strategically located in this lush tropical environment, which was kind of amazing. I mean, I was impressed. I was impressed. And so we didn't get into the water stuff, but we walked around and we ran into animals, and there were flamingos everywhere.
Oh boy.
And I mean, we don't see them up here. I mean, people in Florida, they're like, oh, yeah, we see those all the time. But we don't see them up here. So that was the vibrant colors and the hues were amazing. And and although this is zoomed in, I mean, they were close. So they were not fenced in. They were in
Okay.
open environment. They weren't walking on the path with you, but they were certainly close enough that you can touch them, and certainly not people shy. So the flamingos were a big hit, and I was able to shoot them quite a few times.
Seems like that nature and God is the greatest artist. I'm looking at the colors, and then now these are flamingos. I take it. Uh,
Yes, yes, yeah,
I mean, just look at the color, the coloration, the
yeah,
beak. I mean,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just
They're impressive.
absolutely gorgeous, and you've captured it.
They're impressive. They are
It
impressive.
looks like you're right up on them, but I'm assuming you had a
I was
lens.
close. I was not that far from them, but
Okay.
I zoomed till I got a headshot because I like the way the two heads come together, almost form a heart, and that kind of caught me. And of course the colors, because colors, it's all about colors here. Because these guys, look at that eye. You look at that, be like, yo, dude, who you
See,
think?
you're talking formation. Uh, uh, you, artistry. That's art. How you picture that? How you picture it? Okay. Oh, he slipped again.
This young man is playing a conch. This was in Roatan. In Roatan, we
What
were
time?
going to Roatan, the island off of Honduras,
Okay.
where the mailman delivers your mail by the color of your house. And
Interesting.
if you change the color of your house, you have to notify the mailman. So it's that smaller place. So I
Now this
asked the guy, I said,
location.
so if you got to change, you got to paint your house the same color? He said, well, if you don't, you have to advise the post office because they got no other way of identifying where you live. I said, you got to be kidding me. That's how they do it. So we went to a Garifuna village. Now the Garifunas I discovered through their music, of course. And in fact, in years back when I was involved with Amani, we had a Garifuna band come to Amani. So the excitement for me was we were going to go visit the Garifuna people who were going to be performing. And the Garifuna people are the folks who were on slave ships that crashed. They survived and they wound up populating Honduras, Guatemala, and Belize. So this is part of the African diaspora. And a lot of similarities to the dark community in the Caribbean. I mean, if they don't speak, you wouldn't know the difference. But they have their own language. They have their own customs, but you see the similarities. And so it was, for me, that was kind of the important part of the excursions. Of the excursions we took, this was the one I was most excited about because I was going to be able to see some Garifuna culture. So this guy's playing a conch. There was some percussionists. They were playing congas, and they were dancing. And they were telling us the women came out with baskets with fruits in them. So it was kind of like a harvest dance. That was my sense of it. But it was basically African in its roots, but it had taken on a colloquial significance, much like they do it in Cuba, much like they do it in the Dominican Republic,
right?
Much like they do it in Puerto Rico. They have their spin on it. But
Yes,
the
well
similarities
said.
are striking. The similarities are striking. You know, you can imagine that this is a Haitian ceremony or a Santeria ceremony in Cuba or in Puerto Rico. So it was familiar, but different. If you know what I mean.
Oh yes. I noticed the beautiful shirt he has on there, his African
Yeah,
colors.
yeah,
I see the
yeah,
yellows and
yeah,
reds.
yeah. We'll see
Yeah,
when the dancers come. I mean, it was very cool.
fantastic.
Here is a
Okay,
male dancer. He's a male dancer. And
okay,
interestingly, they were telling us that, and you know, and the male dancer almost looks feminine, but that was done on purpose because these guys were also the ones who went out doing confrontations, and the enemy would assume they were women, and they were really guys. So
okay,
there was a purpose to making them look non-masculine,
okay,
which
okay.
was I thought was pretty interesting.
And these are dancers,
Yes,
some
yes, yes, yes. This guy,
multicultural.
yes.
Excellent.
Here is one of the women dancers who initially came out. This is when they were doing their solo. Again, we're doing Caripuna. She was doing her solo, and when they first came out, they came out with their fruit baskets and then put them down and then danced together. And then each of them came up and did their solo. While the percussionist it's mostly drum driven.
Yeah. Well, they're beautiful, beautiful
Yeah,
dancer. That I love the colors in the dress, and that she's really, really into it.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Yeah,
that's
it was a highlight. It was definitely a highlight for me.
it's totally. We're moving just a little fast with those pictures because maybe we can slow it down a little bit. Please, okay. But yeah, when I look at that picture, first of all, I'm looking at the artistry again in terms of the picture. Uh, as well proportioned. It's a beautiful picture of a beautiful young woman doing her thing. Yes, indeed. All right. Good.
So this is the Mexican side of the trip. This was in Playa Maya. And this is where we went to the ruins. This is a Mexican deity who happens to be there for a photo op. You know, you can come up next to him, get a selfie taken with him. So I kind of dropped back a little bit because we were moving on a line, and I got a space between two people that were standing for me that I was able to capture because this guy was decked out. I mean, dressed up elaborately. I mean,
Yeah, I see.
it was impressive. And I kind of captured all of his feathers, and he wasn't moving around very much. I think there were two other folks who were with him that were less elaborately dressed,
Right.
but were dancing and were playing a drum. But he was more for a statement, and he made quite a statement.
Wow. Now, is this basically an African
This was
child?
Maya. This was Maya.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. This is mine. This is Native
Maya.
American.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I can see how that would be a thought, because it has some of those elements.
Yeah,
But
because there
this
was
was Maya. Um,
okay Maya, but even with the Mayas and the others, some of them interacted, years and years ago with Africans. So,
mhm.
there may be some blend, but it's gorgeous. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it was stunning. It was really stunning.
Now, did they have some sort of a big festival going on, or what?
No, no, I think this was strictly for the folks uh, coming off the boats, off the cruise
Oh,
ships.
okay.
So they're kind of, as we're working our way towards the buses to go excursions. This is something they have there for the tourists. I don't know that I heard them speaking. They were performing, but mostly it was photo ops.
I see. I see. Well, that's fun too. Yes, yes, it is. That's great. That is wonderful. All right.
Ah, this was one of the ruins, and this was an interesting story because the way they were discovered, and like I'm thinking the 1920s is the date that stuck in my head, but that may not be accurate. So an archaeologist came to the area and
Okay.
noticed that it was mostly flat, except for these mounds that kind of appeared randomly, and it didn't quite understand what these little bumps on the terrain were, and somehow discovered that underneath the dirt and trees and foliage there were ruins, and he started excavating them, and sure enough discovered that there were these structures underneath all of this earth. And some of the places have trees in them, in
Huh,
the
interesting.
building itself, so that if they try to dislodge the tree, they will pull the ruin apart. So it was incredible because they've got several in the vicinity, different eras. And they've shown us, they showed us how one era differed from the other depending upon where a line was drawn, a structural line, where the
Yeah.
structure was different. So one dynasty built on top of the last one, and you can kind of decipher where one began and one ended. It was pretty incredible. I mean, it was pretty incredible. And the story behind finding these things and excavating them, and the archaeological uh, discovery, and they're still working on them. They're still working on them. So it's amazing.
Now, who
They
built
show
these? Were these natives, or what these? Who actually built it? Put it
these
together?
were Maya. These were Mayans. These
Okay,
were
these still the
Mayan ruins.
Mayas.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
right. Okay.
And the tour person was showing us the mound behind us, which was still a mound. And they said, well, they can't work on that one because if they start pulling, they're going to destroy the structure. So until they figure out how to do it without destroying it, that's what it looked like before. And this picture is what it looks like after. And of course, this is years and years of excavating. And you can imagine this got to be slow and deliberate. So it's a long-term project. It was quite impressive. I mean, it was quite impressive.
I've never seen anything like it. I'm just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, yeah.
I see you look like a roof or shed on one end. It looks like
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, on this side, yep, yep. And they kind of recreated it. Some of these were like religious places. One place they took us, it was the royal house where the king of this particular dynasty lived. They had a ballpark where I think if you lost the game, you lost your life. I mean, it was.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, they made
Wow.
that reference, and I don't know if it was an honor thing or if you lost. I know there was loss of life. I think that kind of like, whoa, really? Over a game? Come on.
Yeah, I think I'll pass.
Yes, 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 agreed.
Yeah. They look down here in the right hand corner. Looks like maybe an entrance way.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. There's two little ones on the. Yep. Yeah, it was quite fascinating. It was quite fascinating. We could have spent more time there for sure. But they did a nice job because it was so far from the ship. You know, you lost time in traveling, and then the leader of the group was always herding us together. He said, we got to move because we can't. We're going to lose. We're going to lose the time in discussion if we're not moving on schedule. So,
but that's
as
quite
it
a picture,
was,
though.
we got back to the ship late, but they weren't going to leave without us. So you
Quite a
see that
picture.
tree? You see that tree in the foreground?
Yes.
So there are trees like that that are actually embedded into the structure. I don't know if I put one in here with that, but I mean, and some of these trees are huge, huge trees actually embedded into the structure because if they pull it, it'll destroy the structure.
Yeah. It looks like there's a fence down here at the bottom. I don't know if that's a fence or not. I see two lines and then I see some sticks.
Those are like ledges, so that there's not much space between them. They're almost like
Yeah.
steps.
Okay. Interesting. Maya.
Hmm.
I have to read up on the Maya culture.
This was more recent and more local. So Saturday they had a St. Patrick's Day parade in Harrisburg,
Right.
and so I went because I thought I'd get a photo op, and at functions like this, the kids always draw my attention. I
Yes.
guess my pediatrics gets drawn out. I'm more interested in what the kids are doing than anything else. And
Yes.
these two young ladies were there with their dad, and I think there was they had quite a few bands pass through. So the young lady on the left was waving at whoever was passing by at the time.
Uh,
The necklaces they got were being handed out by some of the people participating in the parade. It was nice, and they had beautiful weather. The luck of the Irish definitely held out. I mean, they can take that claim because they were calling for rain. It was a gorgeous day, absolutely gorgeous.
I love Irish music, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
And this, again, I'm looking at the photography here. Beautiful, beautiful picture. And I'm looking at the dimensions and how the two young ladies was centered. Uh, that's great. I enjoy that. That's wonderful. Good job.
Uh,
Boy.
there were a few bagpipe bands, but these guys were the most impressive. I mean, they were totally decked out with their headdress. They had a shawl on that dropped back to. If you look at the guy behind the first one, the shawl comes down to the guy's heels just about, and they're wrapped in front and towards the back. They were the most impressive of the band that were there. Striking.
I have a question. I notice all the Irish parades that I've been in, there's always these Scottish individuals. Is there some connection between the Irish and the Scottish?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, yeah. I think these are Scots. All the bands are playing Highland pipes, which are because the Irish pipe is played with a bellows that's attached to your arm. So there were no Irish pipes there. These were all Scottish pipes. But
Right.
the two definitely are related. I mean, they fought together against the British when the Scots
Okay.
were fighting them. And you know, oftentimes it's a Scotsman who's playing at a St. Patrick's Day festival celebration. I mean, that's a gig for the Scots almost as much as for the Irish. So Irish pipes are laid across the lap and blown with the bellows that's attached to your elbow. Now, fiddle, the concertina, the bullrun, the hand drum, those are definitely Irish. But the Scottish pipes, I mean, you can't turn them down. They're impressive. But these guys were the most impressive.
Yeah, they're decked out, and you captured it.
They were stunning, absolutely stunning.
Captured it. You captured it. Yeah, the beautiful, beautiful picture. Really nice.
And not that a little fact known that some of the stormtroopers were really Irish in the day. If you look at the stormtrooper in the back, he's wearing a blue kilt with his Irish little hat. And of course, even the Darth character is wearing a little green pendant there. That was interesting. That was interesting.
Wow. And you said Stormtrooper?
Yeah, St. Patrick's Day parade. That was pretty interesting.
And who is this guy dressed like a knight and in front, dressed in black with a mask on?
I'm guessing that's one of the Darth Vader characters. I mean, this was
Okay, I see.
all
Okay.
Star Wars. This is all Star Wars. I mean, they're part of the fabric now. They're part of and the young people got into it. I mean, they certainly got into it.
Well, I can see why.
Yeah. They were pretty impressive in their outfits.
And where were you located? You say you were downtown.
Yep, I was on Market and Second. So they came from Market Street from City Island and then turned on Second. So I was right at that turn.
Okay. All
This
right.
is a pipe and drum troupe that was more continental, more U.S. than
Yeah.
Irish. But of course, back in the day, so many of these guys were of Irish and Scottish descent
Yeah.
and a part of
Wow.
our early history.
Yeah, he's having a good time. That must have been
Oh,
something.
there it is. Look, there's the street sign, Second Street and Market, which is where they
Yeah.
turned.
Oh, yeah. There it is. There it is. Second and Market. Yes. Yes. Yes, indeed. Down near City Hall.
That,
Uh, yeah, and the hotels and all. That's beautiful. Fantastic. Uh, used to be a part of a group that we used to celebrate St. Patty's Day every year, but that's no longer there now. Okay, we're back to a new picture.
yeah. Now this little girl, I was trying to get a picture of a couple of times, and I couldn't. In fact, I got a close up of her, but then some of her head is cropped off. But I kept trying to capture her because she caught my attention. She just got my attention, and finally, I got one where I had just her, and she's waving and interacting with the guys who are going by. And
She's a
I
cute little
particularly
thing.
like the diversity of the people coming out for St. Patty's Day.
Yeah, it's because you get a little African brother, and then
Yep,
there's
yep,
this other young lady has braids.
yep.
Uh,
And
Interesting,
he's got his leprechauns on his ears, and so it was. So it's for the young. I mean,
beautiful.
the young got a good time out of it, and she's wearing her necklaces and
Oh yeah, she's draped in a green
yeah.
necklace.
They were handing them, and the kids always run out, and they were throwing candy, and the kids would run out and get candy. Yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time. They did a nice job.
Wonderful, wonderful. Let's see.
Ah, the great white pelican.
Where did you get him? Where was that here?
This is back in Cozumel. And that thing sticking out of his beak is what struck me. I says, what does that purpose? What's the purpose of that thing? I said, wow, this is a huge bird, by the way. Huge bird. Wingspan is immense. huge body. Um, they were perched. They were perched on a rock, and you walk right past them. I mean, literally. I mean, I had to step back because it was so close. I had to step back so I can get focus on it. They were magnificent birds.
And where'd you say we're at?
This was in the Aviary in Escargot in Cozumel.
Got
This was on the cruise.
all right, got you.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful,
Oh yeah,
beautiful
yeah.
animal.
I would have loved to have seen this boy in the air because his wingspan must have been huge.
Wow, fantastic, excellent.
So at this same location, they raise sea turtles, and once they turn 5, they release them into the ocean.
Okay,
So you're walking, so this is one that's about to be released. Then you walk a few steps and there's a body of water that's got smaller ones, younger ones. And then you walk a few steps and then there's another body of water that's got even smaller yet. So I finally had to ask them, one of the caretakers, and they said, yeah, we generally release them after they're 5 years of age and we raise them here. I said, no, and we release them a few at a time. So it's not like a mass. They release them a few at a time to try and ensure survivability. So they're trying
right.
to restore and maintain the sea turtles population.
I'm looking at these what you call 'em, wings or flaps?
Yeah, yeah, the fins. That's how they move in the water. Yeah,
Interesting, interesting. They got this shell.
yep. I mean, this is a big guy too. He's big.
Okay, he looks big in this picture.
Yeah, he's a big guy. I mean, he's 3.5 foot, 4 foot from head to
Oh my goodness,
end of shell.
water is clear and beautiful.
Yeah, he was impressive.
You got some impressive pictures. You really did. You got quite a collection here. You, wow. Okay, is that it?
I think there were more. I hope there were more.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, you certainly.
I think that may be it from that collection you sent me, Gus.
Oh, I'm sorry. And I think we lost some along the way. My apologies.
Well, that's okay. We don't have Chris. We don't have any from the first collection, do we?
Give me a sec or so. I can see if I can find them. Give me a moment or two.
Okay, because those we could go walk back over some of the ones that we saw at the last show.
And
Yeah.
I don't think we got to all of them. So I might add that I have a website now where I'm posting my pictures as I get them. Because as I'm developing, as I'm growing in this, I'm kind of trying to get to the point where I can supplement my wildlife, because that's what my passion is. And my passion is
Okay.
in wildlife and in nature, but developing some portraiture skills so that I can pay for my trips to Yellowstone, Galapagos, so wherever else I can get to over time. So part of that is making myself more visible, and that's a recent development.
Yeah, some of when we were together earlier this week, you showed me some wonderful pictures of bald eagles.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, and in fact, uh, I just added a portfolio to my website because I had the bald eagles in in an avian file, but I got enough pictures that I can just make an eagles file. And it turns out I got a few, and ironically, the majority of those were shot from where I live. You know, yesterday I shot some from the roof of the building. I mean, the eagle was out there, and Terry was
so they
making.
made a home.
Yeah.
They're coming back.
Yeah. And as I'm shooting it, this crow flies by and photobombs. So you see the eagle perched on the branch, and the crow flying right by him, which is kind of amazing and unexpected, which is what draws me to wildlife and nature, the spontaneity and the unexpected experience. Even if you're shooting the same place over and over again, you wind up
Okay, here we are.
this this goose. I want to say that this goose was near my place, the boat loading ramp in the back of the building, um, where the Connequina comes out into the Susquehanna. There's a
Yes.
boat ramp there where folks come out and fish. And there's an area there that I don't know if they're feeding them, but there are certain time of the year, the geese out there in significant numbers. So one time I was out there coming from the creek and these guys were hanging out. So I got a close up of this guy and they walk right past you. So they're not people shy.
Beautiful. I mean, like he has his ducks and
Yep,
seagulls.
that was in local. It was local.
Okay, now we have another picture. I guess it's the same guy. Got a more complete picture of the body of this
This,
bird.
this might this might have been at Italian Lake actually, where
Oh, that's
they hang out there pretty regularly.
that's a beautiful. We're moving a little fast.
This
Okay,
no, yeah, this was
let's
in
slow down. Go ahead.
this was in the Susquehanna, and the clue is in the next one because the next one I know was in the Susquehanna.
Okay, now, okay, okay. So this possibly Susquehanna area. Good
Right,
picture.
and that's off of the as the Connequina comes in, and this is with its young ones. I don't know if
Yeah.
it was warding. I don't think it was warding anything off. I think it was just stretching because I don't recall it being threatened by anything. And I was behind it, so it wasn't going to see me. I wasn't the cause for its reaction.
Well, that's beautiful though.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Captured it. You captured it.
It's impressive.
And you got a couple of ducks
That,
swimming
yeah,
by.
little goslings.
Beautiful. And this is the Susquehanna. Oh, there
No,
we go again.
this is now these ducklings. This is on Front Street. This is on Front Street in Harrisburg, uh, where and this is the time of the year, obviously, where all the goslings are out, and generally the adults are out being fed. They're not supposed to be fed, but they are, and so they wind up coming up, and they herd their young ones along with them. And although typically you can come up close to them, not when they're with their young.
Oh, interesting. They're protective.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. The one is hurting them, and one is acting as a sentinel, kind of looking around. You get too close, that one that's acting as a sentinel will approach you.
No kidding.
Oh yeah, they will.
Int- int- int-
They will definitely front you because they don't want you messing with their young.
Interesting. Life is interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's
Capturing nature. Nature is just absolutely astonishing. That's
yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
Front Street is one of my special areas, and the Riverview Park. I mean, it's wonderful. Life, wildlife, and just walking on the vegetation. It's a great park. It really is.
I think the irony for me is that I'm now living in a more urban setting and exposed to more wildlife than when I was in a suburban setting. But again, the common denominator is having the time to be walking around and stumbling on these things. Because when
Yeah,
you're working, your time is not your own.
yeah, that's true. That's very, very true. I spent a many hour and many day
Yeah,
uh, walking along the waterfront I used to walk early in the morning before I go to work, and sometime late in the evening.
Yep.
And I can appreciate the wildlife that's there.
Yeah,
And
it's surprising how much of it's there. I mean, if you and particularly in the morning and in the evening is when you're apt to run across them.
yeah,
So yeah, you would have had your share of encounters.
oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, I walk sometimes from Division Street up to going towards Stilton. Now what are these? Now where's these are turtles?
These are painted turtles in Wildwood Park. Uh,
Interesting.
yeah, they're probably the first thing that shows up once the weather warms up. And then after them, some of the frogs, and then the birds start coming. But the turtles,
They're lined up like soldiers.
yeah. Yeah. What came to my mind was the Wizard of Oz. All we are is we owe to her when they're marching into the castle. So this
Wow.
is an interesting, and I don't know if they're related or what purpose it serves, or they just happen to come up and be hanging out at the same time. But it's an interesting array. And then this little guy, the guy at the end on the left is facing the other way.
Right. Yeah, he is. I hadn't even noticed that.
Yeah. So
Have you ever eaten turtle soup?
I don't think that I have. No, I can't say that I have.
I, neither. I've heard that it's edible and it's supposed to be good for some people. But that's a
Ah,
beautiful
okay,
picture there.
okay.
Beautiful picture, sir. That's great. Hey,
The frogs, yeah. Of princes and men.
and this is Wildwood.
This is Wildwood, yeah.
Man, how you get
Yeah.
that? I mean, you must have a zoom lens. How could you get that without
And you
him jumping?
try to get as close to the ground as possible, and then yeah, zoom because these guys they spook.
Yeah.
Some of and the younger they are, you don't even notice it until they splash, and then you say, "Oh, there was a frog there."
Yeah. But you got him. He might be ready to scoop, but he hasn't quite taken off yet.
I wasn't bothering him, so
And I'm just looking at his buck eyes.
yeah.
His topography. He's an interesting character. Yeah. Snake?
Yeah, uh, rat snake. And this is in Wildwood,
Okay.
and more aggressive than the other snakes. So you need to be wary of that because they can spring on you.
Okay. Now we got a pretty close picture of him. Now, did he is he poisonous? Or,
No,
or
they're
he's
not.
not. But
No,
he can bite. Wow.
but he will. Yeah, he will. The others. I mean, if you go pick them up, he's able to strike you. So, whereas the garter snakes and the gray snakes tend to be much more docile.
I see. But I guess you got to know how to pick him up in
Right,
the first place.
right.
I would think toward the head somewhere.
Yeah, you need to know what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. Wow, boy, you are capturing it. Now, where are we here? That looks
So
like
this is where the boat ramp is supposed to be. We had some significant rain, and this is so. You see the little tree that's sticking out in the middle.
yeah.
The parking lot is right behind that tree.
Okay,
That's all supposed to be dry land. Everything is supposed to be up until the little railing that you see by that tree. That's the post that you put your car up against. So the water had risen to the point where all of that was underwater.
now is this Susquehanna River?
This is what? The Susquehanna is
Susquehanna.
on our right, and the Connery Creek is coming in from the left.
Okay, interesting, colorful.
This young lady, this young lady was, what park? This was in a park.
Yeah, I
This
can see it now. She's sitting in the
was,
tree.
yeah, she's sitting up in a tree. And I forgot what the caption was. I mean, it got my attention because, in fact, it was in this same park. There's this gentleman who was practicing his horseshoe throwing, which he did
Okay.
competitively. He was a
Okay.
horseshoe competitor, and I didn't even know the thing existed. So I was shooting him. I turned around, and this young lady was hanging out in a tree, which I thought made for an interesting image.
Yes, it is. It's quite different. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Okay. What do we have next?
There is the horseshoe. This gentleman, I think was in his late 70s. And he was telling
Okay.
me that he comes out here pretty regularly to practice. He's practicing.
Okay.
Um, and after a certain age, you're allowed to be closer to the post you're shooting at, you're hitting. He says, I don't do that. I'm staying standard distance, although I'm eligible to be closer. This is the distance I'm familiar with. And you see his hand, he's got a glove in his hand, on the throwing hand.
Wow. So he's really into it.
Yes, he kind of advised me of this. I thought this was just a pastime that you did at family reunions. He said, no, there's a competitive circuit, and,
Interesting.
and you compete. I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. So I said, could I get a shot at you? Because that's kind of unique. He said, no, yeah, sure. And then we started talking, and he started telling me about his horse. I mean, I had his own horseshoes. So it's a whole different universe that we
It's
didn't know anything
amazing.
about.
It's amazing. Enjoying life.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. He's around my age in the late 70s. And
yep,
he's enjoying life. He's and actually getting some exercise in at the same
yep,
time.
yep, 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 and keeping his competitive edge. I mean, it was quite impressive.
And that shot's impressive. You
Yeah,
got
well,
him, and you
yeah,
got him in motion, and you
yep,
got the
yep,
horseshoe.
yep. Horseshoe in the air. Yep, very cool. This
Yeah.
was some foliage. We went up to a park up north of here, and I remember the Ned Learning Center. They supposedly had owls up there. We went up there looking for owls, didn't find any owls, so I shot some foliage instead. I think we got a few birds. Boy, I'm blocking on the name of the park, but I remember that it was the Ned Learning Center, and this was late fall. So there was still some green out. No, it couldn't have been because there was somebody fishing in there. I remember somebody was fly fishing. So this might have been early spring.
Okay. Wow. That's a beautiful picture.
And it was Gosling. That's at the corner of the Gwinnett Creek.
Okay. Is the creek relatively clean?
It's murky water.
Okay.
Um, but in terms of debris, there's very little debris on it. I mean, there's
Okay.
very little debris.
And the
But the water,
Susquehanna is not very clean.
yeah, well, it's brown water. It's brown water.
You do that. I understand we get complaints from folks from the Chesapeake because that feeds into Susquehanna. But when I was in Seattle, the water was blue.
Yeah,
They took care of their environment, but not here.
yeah,
not,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
not,
yeah.
not, not to the degree that they should. Okay, this fellow's sitting down taking it easy.
Yeah, this is
On the break.
it looked like a sparrow, and it looks like I shot this here on the creek. I go to creek the creek I go to because I saw a barred owl there and the first year I went down there. I've been
Yeah,
going back there since trying to see if I can see the barred owl again. No
yeah.
luck. And
Oh,
people have told me they hear them, and people have seen them. The first time I stumbled on it was purely by accident. The second time, There was another photographer who pointed it out to me. It was way up in the trees. I don't think I would have ever spotted it. And so I keep going back and no luck.
Yeah, I've seen owls in my yard, and
Yeah,
the fact
I'd like to shoot. I mean, I've only got one picture of an owl.
I always see woodpeckers that he gets on my nerve. I've
Uh,
had I've had some woodpeckers that have destroyed some trees. Yeah, I
yeah,
have birds that come out here that are unbelievable.
yeah.
Beautiful. Here's another one. Not looking. Beautiful plant.
This is an orchid that I have here in the house that blooms during the winter.
Ah,
I,
beautiful.
I have I got no green thumb skills, but these guys, and so I started photographing them as they were opening up. First they were buds, and as they opened up, I kept documenting their progress.
Okay, that's great, man. You gotta be patient on that. That's great. Wonderful. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful plant. It's a beautiful picture.
And fickle. I mean, they're I don't know. This is I'm a Lord of the Rings fan, and
Oh,
someone gave
okay.
me this is a chess set. This is a chess pieces, but the theme is Lord of the Rings.
Oh, okay.
So these are the silver ones are the whites, the good guys, and then the dark pieces. You can see the creature behind them are copper. So Gandalf is over to the left. He's out of focus. This is, I think this is Boron. Yeah, I don't think it's Aragorn. I think it might be Aragorn, who was a raider.
Well, you certainly have
And a couple of the hobbits behind him.
you have certainly have a variety of shots and able to capture it. It's beautiful. And here we know another fellow just sitting, taking it easy.
Yeah, and I think this is a phoebe. And that's the other thing. You wind up shooting birds, and you got to look them up because, um, fortunately, there are plenty of birders around. And more than a few times, I've shown them the picture. I said, "Okay, what is this guy?" And they told me what it is. And I have my bird app because there's no way you can walk around and not. It's just too many. Now, there's some folks who just go crazy about ducks. Now, I am duck illiterate because they kind of all look the same to me. Unless they're strikingly different colors. Someone was showing me a shoveler the other day that's got a long bill that kind of digs in the ground. And they do have nice colors. I mean, they do have interesting colors, different from the mallards and different from the other ducks that I've seen. But
And, and this may sound horrible to you, but ducks are delicious. I
yeah,
love
yeah,
eating ducks.
I agree.
Sorry.
I agree.
This is what
Uh,
it is.
and sometimes they make good pictures, make good
Oh
subjects.
yeah, good. Get a good shot and then a good pot. That's great. Oh my
Great, the egrets, which should be coming around soon. I thought I saw some flying the other day back. I said, "Wow, those look too big to be seagulls." And then I saw that the legs were dragging behind. I said, "Oh, those must be egrets." And they
huh.
hang around. They hang around in the river They hang around in the creek. And this is just at where the Connery comes into the Susquehanna. And they definitely populate Wildwood. They're pretty much staples over there.
Well, you know the water must not be too bad for all these creatures to be able to exist
And
a
fish out
lot.
of it because they
Yeah,
fish out of it. So
yeah. That see that yeah they eating the fish too. So it must not be as bad as I think it is.
well, I mean, it's just not pretty to look at, but I mean, it's not as contaminated as it looks.
Yeah, yeah. That's true. Well, we're down to the end of the show.
Excellent.
And thank you so much for your patience and your time and coming back with us and showing us all those gorgeous pictures. Just keep shooting.
Yep.
Yeah, keep shooting, and then you have something different, something you want to show. Just let us know.
All
We're
right.
always in.
I will do that. I think it's fun. It's always fun, and time well spent. And it keeps me out of trouble,
I heard that.
which is a
It
tall
keeps me
order,
out
right?
of trouble.
That could be a tall order. So,
I say
you're
that.
doing your
So,
community service. Okay.
well, and thank you, my friends, for tuning in to the Richard James Show. And don't forget us. We are still down at Lebanon Valley Family Market. And here's a picture of all the many artifacts that we have available. We're open there for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to 3 o'clock. Uh, Come and visit with us, and thank you so much, Gus, for coming in and sharing your work with us. And maybe next time we'll do another show. We'll go to the music. So God
Excellent.
bless everyone. We want to thank Chris Thomas and his family for supporting us and allowing us to be able to do this. And say hello to your lovely wife, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me over, and have a great time. And till next time.
All right. Take care now. So long, my friend.
Thank you again for tuning in to the Richard James Show. Our African and our African American programs are set up to educate you on what's going on in this world. We thank you for taking out the time to listen. Let us hear from you sometime also. So this is your neighbor and your friend signing off. Until I see you again next week and hear from you again next week. So long. God bless.